savewithconrad.com.
I'm Andy Cleveland from Appleton, Wisconsin. Longtime listener of the podcast. I listen to Something to Wrestle With, hearing all of the ads and things. We're at a spot where we wanted to refinance, and I know that's something that Conrad talks quite a bit about. We figured we'd give it a shot. I had a series of surgeries that were in a 15-month window, and it put us quite a bit with credit card debt. We had a lot of equity, over the years that built up in the house, so we wanted to take the equity out of the house and to pay off all those high interest credit card debts and get things back down to a manageable level per month. We worked with Larry and then Francis. It was awesome. Talking with Larry, everything was very helpful. Emails were fantastic, telling us what we needed to do. Francis was there to kind of nudge us along if we were dragging our feet a little bit. There's different forms and paperwork and things that you have to fill out. And anytime that we had a question, we would contact Frances by email, and she was just amazing. She helped us out, got those questions answered for us. You deal with other places they call, and you just feel like all they want to do is they just want to get the money, kind of take a piece of you. Working with Larry and Frances, it really felt they were helping us the whole way. They were very clear on what our intentions were and what we wanted, and they helped us meet our goals. So by doing this, much lower interest rate, everything is paid off, and now everything is so much more comfortable month to month. I'm Andy Cleveland from Appleton, Wisconsin, and I saved over $1,000 a month with savewithconrad.com.
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender.
savewithconrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to My World. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer himself, the greatest professional wrestler of all time, your friend and mine, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Oh, Conrad Thompson, the holiday edition of My World. Turkey time and sleigh bells and snow bells, and Christmas is right around the corner. But Conrad, my hair is not blown out. What'd you call it? Johnny Bravo look. I don't have the Johnny Bravo look. Busy times. Looking forward to chatting. Last week we got into Randy Savage's last match and cookies and balloon, and well, quite frankly, out of Mr. Meltzer's mouth himself, maybe one of the greatest professional wrestling, not TNA, one of the greatest professional wrestling pay-per-views of all time. So, Conrad, I enjoyed last week. I enjoyed the commitments. And if I should say so myself, all I'm doing right now, Connie, is kind of tooting our horn.
Oh, I love it. I love a good horn tooting. And if I do say so myself, I cooked the very best Thanksgiving turkey of all time. I don't mean to throw shade on you there, Double J, but Karen sent me a picture of your burnt bird. I mean, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Like, do you not know how to cook a turkey? Do you need next year for me to come up there and show you how to cook a proper turkey for the family?
Turkey on the big green egg, a filet mignon, a big nice beef tenderloin on the Rec Tech. Man, oh man, we could have fed a damn army here, but all the kids in the house, good football, Roll Tide. Oh, Connie, we won't get into all that today because I'm looking forward to we're going to have kind of the potpourri of podcasts today and have a little fun. But Conrad, did you get any feedback, like any chatter, any horn tooting? Anybody toot your horn about last week's episode? Because online there was a lot of tooting. All
I saw was great feedback. I know that we're on a roll here, and we hope that you'll join us if you haven't already at myworldpod.com. Go hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications bell. You don't want to miss the next time we're live. And today is a special day. We're going to be throwing you guys the keys to the show. What do you guys want to talk about? As a friend of mine likes to say, we'll jump right into it. Francis Reyes wants to know, is there anything that he wished he had from TNA that he did not have during his time there? So that could be a variety of things, Jeff. It could mean, a talent. It could have been a venue. It could be a social media platform. Timing is everything. But if there's one thing with the benefit of hindsight that you think could have benefited TNA that you didn't have then, what would that be?
I'm making sure I want to thank you, Francis, for the question. Always you bring it. But what did I what like if I had to start TNA today? What I want to make sure seriously, kind of what am I answering here? I wish I had. Is there anything that he wished he had from TNA that he did not have during his time there? I'm sorry, but maybe I'm not justing that right. But I'll say this. From 2002, we'll call it till 2010. Those are the kind of the years, and I know I stayed till 2013. But anyway, we'll say it, 02 to 13. We were technologically speaking, I think when you look back on the world, a massive transition change in technology. X, or what we called early in days, Twitter was not around. YouTube came along 04, 05, 06. We were still going on the antiquated pay-per-view system as far as the transactional and the cable systems. Technology has advanced so much more today. I think that could have obviously really changed the game, Conrad, in so many ways. I think, some of those 2-hour pay-per-views were off the charts good. We talked about last week's episode. There was some really good content, but during the time coming off the Attitude Era, and oh man, we've talked, different angles on this. The business overall was in a huge transition change. WCW, nobody would have dreamed in a million years in 92, 93, 94, as WCW was beginning to roll on. You never thought that content, that promotion, because it was 3 different territories or maybe more rolled into one. You just never thought it was going to completely go away, but it did, as we've documented. March of 2001, game, set, match. So there was only the WWF at the time. So technology, I wished I had the massive changes in technology when we were rolling in those days of TNA.
From a collector standpoint, is there anything that you wish you had hung on to commemorate your time in TNA? Like a pay-per-view sign or a title belt or any sort of little keepsake, like when you think back and you look around your man cave that I know you're laying eyes on right now over the computer and you can see, is there anything you wish you had from your TNA days that you don't have?
So Don West, and look, if we want to talk collectors, we could chat on you, all that. So Don West proposed that guitar idea. And this is going to be like a personal memento. Man, Connie, if you could have heard and you got to know Don, I just poo-pooed the idea for, I don't know if it was a couple of months, but certainly a month or so. I'm just like, Don, there is no, I don't see us investing, in whatever the first batch was, $100 a guitar or 99 or 79, whatever it was, cost of goods. I said, man, I just, and I didn't think there was going to be, I just, every negative thing I could. I think Don kept that first guitar off in the shipping because that was his idea. So that would be a nice collector's item. A lot of the first, I have a bottle of champagne that Kevin K sent me on one of the first milestones of ratings that he was really happy with. So I'm a collector of I'll say, not watches, not belts like you, Connie, but different unique things. But maybe that first guitar would be something that I've got one from the first batch, but it certainly wasn't guitar one.
Aaron Sheen is with us here live as a part of our live studio audience from adfreeshows.com. And he wants to know, what are your thoughts on signs making a comeback at wrestling events now? Of course, in the 90s and early 2000s, that was a really big deal to take out the old cardboard sign and get the big magic marker and bring it to the show and express yourself. These days, people have been doing it more on social media, but it does feel like over the last couple of years, you're seeing more and more of those. Is that a good thing for wrestling?
Oh, I think it's a great thing. And when you think back to the Attitude Era, man, especially when Raw got hot, well, Nitro too. I was at both companies back and forth, but when the explosion happened, that was something that you really saw. And some people would get really engaged or creative. I'll never forget Conrad in Detroit at the Palace. Those young guys up, they were, I'll call it the cheap seats because they were up high, and they spelled out slap nuts. And that's when Standards and Practices called me in after my segment and said, hey, man, we need to talk about this. There's a sign out in the crowd, and I know you said it, and there's quite a bit of talk about it. We need to know what is a slap nut. And I just chuckled. But anyhow, signs are a great thing. And, Conrad, I think because of the value of airtime, and you don't want to edit, and you have to be careful. And if there's 3 or 4, it's hard to shoot around. And I think just society, and we touched on it last week when talent would screw up in the ring and the chance of you effed up and that kind of stuff. The audience, there was a time frame when they were just more vocal, and maybe, I don't know if bitter is the right question, but and so many a sign were confiscated or looked down on, and it just didn't happen. I think, since I guess the world is maybe I could say changing. People like to say negative things behind the keyboard when they're never going to see their face, but in public, for the most part, look, there's always going to be bad apples and stuff like that, but things are lightening up. But Aaron, good question. I love signs. I think it's a way it's engagement. If somebody's going to take the time to make a sign, it means for the most part, they're emotionally engaged in the product and specifically the talent. So I think it's a great thing.
Here's one from Instagram, a wrestling historian. He wants to know, what's your take on being a guest referee? Do you prefer calling it down the middle or helping the bad guys win? That's an interesting question, but as a performer, is that challenging? Is that difficult to know how to sort of take care of your character and call the match? Are you wearing literally 2 hats in that moment creatively? What can you tell us about being a referee as a wrestler?
A man, a historian, always brings it. My experiences in the territory days really honed in my kind of thoughts and mindsets and how to really integrate even a special enforcer at ringside or a guest special referee. And I can remember having different conversations. Dutch comes from the territory days, and our thinking would be aligned. Sometimes a Russo or others in the room would not clearly kind of see the picture. But I think the value in it, I'm a huge fan of it in more ways than you can imagine, because we'll call it, when you have a third member in the ring that can be a part of telling the story, then you can lead the audience down a certain way. And let's just hypothetically say you have the babyface talent as a special guest referee. You can have him do little things, bits and pieces in the beginning part of the match. And if he's a babyface, maybe you have some things where he lets some cheating go by, or maybe stops the babyface from doing something, and he's calling it down the middle. And you think, this freaking guy is going to switch heel in this match. I knew it. But at the end, he ends up calling it down the middle, and the babyface wins. There's all kind of avenues. I just think adding a third player on the field is super beneficial. And a lot of times, if you just let that special guest referee play his role as only a referee, that in and of itself, I used to tell, I'll say Vince this, if we just have this guest special referee and hype it up and build it up, if we just have him play the role of a referee and only a referee, guess what? That's a surprise, because people think he's going to side one way or another. And that in and of itself is delivering on your step. He was a special guest referee that called it down the middle.
Let's do another one here. This one comes to us from Mike. He wants to know, when Dixie and yourself had the meeting with Christian prior to his exit from TNA, you've never been specific about the details of the meeting. Was there an attempt to offer more money to retain him?
I don't recall that we were, and I think, thanks, Mike, for your question. I think you're talking about the meeting that we had actually in Chicago the weekend of the pay-per-view. I think, man, man, I'm just trying to make sure I recall everything. I think we were, I don't say past that, but I think he had already kind of made up his mind. And I knew and told Dallas and Panda and probably told Dixie, I don't really think this is anything other than he wants to go back to WWE to prove himself. I think we probably served the role that he wanted us to. He became champion. It was growth in his career. We did him a solid. He did us a solid. But at the end of the day, we can't outbid WWE really under any circumstance. And so do we really want to put ourselves in a position that we're overpaying a guy that we know it doesn't fit our business model? So those kind of meetings that were really hard, or always hard for kind of, I'll say to Dixie to absorb that, look, Dixie, at the end of the day, we have a budget and we have to keep what we'll say the entire team rowing in the same direction. You can get out ahead of your skis, and then all of a sudden you get some pay out of wax. Not saying Christian's not worth it, but in our system, we can only do so much. And so I think the details of the mini, I don't think there was money that needed to be discussed.
Michael Burgett wants to know, is there a venue you haven't wrestled in yet that you want to? Like, I think you've hit most of them. Have you wrestled in Arena Mexico before?
No.
Is that the only one? Are there more? You've been in Hammerstein.
That's a good. Oh, sold that bitch out, didn't I?
You've been in the ECW arena, right?
Do you know? I've never. That's a good one. I've never wrestled there.
Okay, so Arena Mexico, ECW arena. You wrestled in the Tokyo Dome.
Yep.
You wrestled in All-State Arena. You did the Cow Palace.
Oh yeah, Cow Palace. I was thinking remember back in the. Because I was in my other live event duties, or maybe I was there for international, the Full Sail Studio, and I know they did it's some famous deal, but I think studio settings can be really cool. I'm trying to think geographically.
I mean, I know it's not going to happen because it's not even a thing anymore. But it would have been cool to see you in that old TBS set that Crockett used to run.
Oh yeah.
That would have been cool.
Yep.
But you wrestled the Sportatorium.
Many a Friday and Saturday night.
I mean, so you hit a lot of the famous ones.
The old ones, yeah. I even did a Cobo Hall. I'm trying to think.
Did you do Manhattan Center? Yeah, you would have done Manhattan Center for WWE back in the day, right? Nope.
We had already transitioned.
So you did Hammerstein, but not Manhattan Center. So Manhattan Center would be cool. You never did Elks Lodge in Queens, the old ECW building. That would have been fun.
Wow, we're kind of hitting a few here. I was thinking in Chicago, I've done UIC Pavilion. That's the old school. I'm just thinking, I didn't. Yeah, any ones that were alive and active in my career. Yeah, man, that's even the Germany buildings and the UK buildings and.
Oh, what about that Royal Albert Hall or whatever the shit that's called?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it.
A cool building
Russell
right
Coco
there.
Beware there. Yes. Coco Beware there at Royal Albert Hall. As Owen sat in the Queen's box. He always thought that was funny. He would say that.
Is there another American or North American building? Like, I know you hit MSG. I mean, that's an easy one. Did you do Barclays?
I produced there. I've been several times there.
Yeah.
Damn.
We got some good ones though. There's still some on the bucket list to scratch.
The ECW arena is kind of, and have we talked on the spot about that? I don't know what it was. And maybe Dreamer responded on something like me.
I've said before that the Double J character in the ECW arena would have just been nuclear.
Yeah,
it would have been amazing, and I would have loved it. But yeah, we still got to make that happen. It's curious to me that that's like the most famous independent wrestling arena in the world, and you haven't worked it.
Yeah,
because you've always been big time contract Jones. That's your deal.
We've got to make that happen.
Do you think Tony Khan's going to have to take out a loan to pay your new contract value? Like a short term one?
Here, no, I don't at all.
Well, savewithconrad.com can help you, Tony, just if you need it.
Feeling his oats today.
Hey, let's take a break right now and tell everybody about how the days are getting shorter, and your to-do lists aren't. Well, power through your busy days with Factor's no prep, no mess meals from breakfast to dinner and everything in between. Factor has easy, nutritious options to keep you fueled and feeling your best. Whether you like routine or maybe you like mixing things up, Factor's got you covered with more than 35 different delicious meals every week and over 60 additional convenience options that you can add to your box, like keto cookies or pressed juices and smoothies. Don't let shorter days slow you down. Stay energized with America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. Factor lets you do you. You choose from 6 different menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize your protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Because Factor's meals are chef prepared and dietitian approved, you're going to love not only Factor's meals and how they taste, but how they help you support your goals. And check this out, Factor is actually cheaper than takeout and dining out. And you can also find all the guilt-free comfort foods you're looking for. What about home-style chicken and gravy? Come on now. Loaded mashed potato pork chops? Come on, that's Old South right there. They've even got feel-good vegan options like sweet potato and chickpea curry, and even globally inspired flavors. There's no sacrificing quality for convenience with Factor. Weekly menus offer you ways to treat yourself to a restaurant-like meal experience with gourmet dishes. I'm talking premium ingredients. How about truffle butter filet mignon? They got it. It's mouthwatering. Check it out. Stay on your A game with the quality ingredients that you can trust and quality you can taste in every one of Factor's fresh, never frozen meals. And you can even use your time more efficiently here. There's a lot of important things we got to do this time of year. So let Factor take care of all the shopping, the prepping, the cooking, and the cleaning up. Scratch it all off your daily list of things to do and head on over to factormeals.com/50myworld and use the code 50myworld to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code 50myworld at factormeals.com/50myworld to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping while your subscription is active. And Jeff, earlier today, we took a little break and I know for sure what you had for lunch. Factor made it easy, didn't it?
Connie, I just about to tell you, I had me chicken thighs and wild rice with green beans. That was that. But you know what has become I love the meals and everything, but my go-to in the mornings, oatmeal energy bites and overnight oats. Folks, if you want kind of a energy packed breakfast, Connie, I'm telling you, Factor, it has changed the Jarrett household. I'm going to almost say temperament, because I don't have to always keep cooking, and I don't have to ask Karen, and I don't have to eat leftovers, and I have my good, healthy meal in 2 minutes, and then we move on about our day. I'm telling you, it is absolutely, I don't say this lightly, it's a game changer in the Jarrett household.
Factormeals.com/myworld50. Use our code. I'm sorry, that's the wrong code. It's factormeals.com/50myworld and use that code 50myworld. Even I put the 50 at the end. Don't do that. You're going to get 50% off your first box when you use this code. It's 50myworld at factormeals.com. It's the real deal. Hey, let's do another one here. This is from Francis. He wants to know, do you have any advice you can give to Eric Bischoff about his upcoming MLW show? And as folks are listening to this, that's just 48 hours from now. Tickets are still on sale. Eric Bischoff coming out of retirement for one show. It's called Eric Bischoff's One Shot. MLWNYC.com is where you can check it out and get some tickets. They start at just $15 and they're coming to you in Queens. Come on now, watch it live on YouTube too. It's at the Melrose Ballroom, but Eric Bischoff coming out of retirement, man. He hadn't done anything in the wrestling space in a little bit. Any advice for
give
Eric?
Me a standpoint. Where are we at on this? Well, just help me out here, because I got to answer Francis's question, and I want to make sure I've got all the bases covered here.
Okay.
Where's he at? Well, tell me what he has. Where do you think he needs help? Because Francis's question was, what is it, Silva? What was his question?
Any advice you can give him?
Any advice? Okay. Bischoff don't need advice from me. Yeah, this is a one-off. I'm trying to do one piece of advice. Yes, and he knows this, but I'm just going to say, EB, less is more.
There you go. Less is more. Kevin the Showstopper says, did you get any heat from country artists or the Grand Ole Opry for the vignettes you filmed in Nashville back in 1993?
If people only knew what downtown Nashville looked like, I mean, really looked like then and now, and I know several years ago, the skyline was tweeted like how much has changed in 10 or 12 or 15 years. But it's the Ryman literally was boarded up. Graffiti was legit on the mother church. If people are familiar with Nashville now, the side that Tootsie's is on, I almost wanted to say, there was just a block from Tootsie's down to Roberts. It was just downtown. I can't say it was dead, but man, just one side of the street was really, now it's block upon block upon block and restaurant and 3 and 4. And they've added another level on Tootsie's, and just downtown Nashville has exploded over the last, gosh, I'll say 10 to 15 years. But in 93, oh my gosh, where we filmed all those vignettes, and me and Bruce catting around town, the Country Music Hall of Fame up on Music Row, and then we went to that Tootsie's. But when we did the vignette, we had my uncle's old white Cadillac, and my man Tony Falk, who had my first match with, he was the driver. But that's where I was kind of pacing back and forth in front of the Ryman, and man, oh man, just so run down. To answer your question, that probably got the Ryman scene more on television in 1993, 94 than any other piece, because it was dead. There was country music didn't even respect the Ryman in 93, let alone professional wrestling. So no, I didn't get any flack. None.
Gil Boldberg, boy, that's interesting to say, says Maven said in his YouTube vlog that the reason he never signed with TNA is because he had no desire to pursue pro wrestling any further. Had he signed, do you think he would have experienced a career renaissance like Christian and go back to WWE as a main eventer? Maven's enjoyed a lot of success on YouTube, and a lot of people are wondering, what if? Did you guys ever even have him come up? Does his name ever come up in TNA that you recall?
My knowledge, he was pretty much out of the business. Because Maven's a great guy. Seen him on a couple independent or autograph or both. But to my knowledge, he had, and I get it. And I'm not going to say, I'm not definitely going to speak for him. But when you start at that level, it's the expectation. I just don't think his passion for the industry was there. And I'm not saying it should have been there. He did what he wanted to do, and that was not pursue wrestling. And so I don't think there was any interest on either side.
Here's one from Nathan Ray Clark. He wants to know, are there any plans for you and the Rizzler to do an updated music video with My Baby Tonight? And James wants to know, how bad did you want to give a guitar necklace to the Rizzler? Also, which celebrity is on your list? If you could give a guitar necklace to someone, who is at the top of that list? Man, I'm glad you didn't crack the Rizzler with the guitar necklace, but I'm sure
love to have seen that. I think you did a tweet or X post.
I don't know anything about that. I've never heard anything about that.
I think you said something along the lines of, can we do something really famous? I don't know, but Conrad, how do you think me cracking old Riz with the guitar shot would have panned out? Do you think that would have been universally beloved?
I think there'd have been paperwork. I think you would have been arrested and brought up on charges for child abuse.
Rizzler. I mean,
he's not like Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice was a grown man like Hasbulla. I mean, if you wanted to crack Hasbulla, I mean, that dude, despite what Mike Tyson thought, is like almost 30. He's not a little snuggly kid.
But But there's a whole lot to unpack there. What was the other question there, Silva?
Who's at the top of your list of celebrities you'd like to hit with a guitar necklace?
Oh,
is there one celebrity out there? Taylor Swift.
Okay. Kelsey, both of them probably need guitar shots.
Those are good. Those are good ones for me.
Okay. You want to stop there?
No, if you got a list, rattle them off.
I'm just trying to think, out there.
Dave Meltzer.
Well, yeah. Dave would no sell it. He would no sell it. He'd no sell it. Just that simple.
He'd give you negative 4 stars
on the swing
on his own guitar shot. He'd have told you how you could have done it better. The Japanese guitars are better quality. Everybody knows that.
Sure.
Yeah. Major wants to know, does Jeff have any stories about Fit Finlay?
Man, I love Fit. I'll just say, I don't have anyone that particularly comes to mind, but Fit, what a historic, his journey, I'll call it his journey in professional wrestling. Now his son, but Fit goes back to, wow, I'll call it just a throwback of where he started and I was always, cause I love Britain. I love Europe. I'm not going to leave out Scotland and Wales and all this, but the British wrestling from a historical perspective in the world of sport and the touring and, Big Daddy and Haystacks. But when you kind of go back and really get into the DNA, Fit is a part of that. It's cool. His journey in wrestling is legendary. I don't have any specific Fit. Obviously I was with him at WWE and NWCW when he worked there, but no specific Fit story. He's got a great British sense of humor.
I had dinner with Fit Finlay. We were at a dinner for Ric Flair that Fit was invited to as well. And he sat sort of across from me, one seat over. And so we were able to converse really for the first time. And I think the world of his lovely wife, and she's fantastic if you ever have a chance to meet her. But through conversation, I learned just how witty and how smart Mr. Finlay was. I mean, his sense of comedic timing is great. And he said something, and gosh, this was probably 7 to 8 years ago now. He said something along the lines of, this generation won't have cauliflower ears. They'll have cauliflower thighs. And I thought that was hilarious. The old leg slapper.
I love it.
Goodness. Let's do another one here from Rajiv. How did you get that extra poof on your hair at Full Gear? And what people really want to know is, Jeff, are you going to try to recreate it? Like, I intentionally sabotaged your haircut last week.
Yep.
And so now we're post Thanksgiving. You missed your haircut appointment. Can we keep you through Blowout Jones? And I mean, can we get through a few more pay-per-view pre-shows before you bid it farewell?
So Raj is a ad-free. Look at that. Raj is a faithful ad-free member. And I know, look, haters are going to hate. I know he's a little bit jealous. He's got an Indian mop on the top of his head. But with all that being said, that is courtesy. And I went into detail last week. I was running a little late, showered, got ready, went out the door and caught the Uber from my hotel over to the Prudential Center, getting ready for Full Gear. And as the Uber was pulling in, the wind was blowing hard. I stepped outside. The Uber got stuck behind a hotel shuttle. The wind was blowing, super hard. And, not to my knowledge, I don't look in the mirror very often. And I did photos with the Rizzler and Paul Walterhauser and was on 0 Hour. And I really didn't have a complete crew. Just how Shivani complimented my hair.
Everybody loved your hair, Jeff. You got to grow it out. You got to blow it out. That's what we want.
Yeah, I don't have the blowout today, do I? No.
Well, let's work on that. Let's get Karen's ass to work here and took you up.
Here we go.
Bobby wants to know, what was your experience like after March 26, 2001, when the WWF bought WCW? What was the next day like? That's something we've never really talked about. We've talked about watching the simulcast, where Vince McMahon spells out JEFF and he says you're fired. But the very next day, do you wake up and wonder, was that a dream? What am I doing now? I mean, obviously, you're under contract, but at the time, were you optimistic and thinking, hey, he mentioned me, so maybe that means we're going to do something? Are you trying to make calls? Are you hoping they're going to call you? Or are you just content to keep checking the mail and let the chips fall where they may?
I will say this, and because we've got a T-shirt. This is I got a T-shirt to kind of commemorate this, but we branded the name of it. But Conrad, I would say above 97%, maybe 98% in my entire wrestling career. Once I left the territory and started flying and doing all the there it is, the summer of no worries, Conrad. That's what I was saying is so. 98% of the time after the last show of the loop, I always take the first flight home. I get home as early as I possible because I want to maximize my stay at home before I have to go back out. That's just, that's Sunday morning. I got up as early as possible, took that flight. That's just kind of always been the routine. I remember specifically going, well, why do I got to rush home? I think I took a 2 or 3 in the afternoon flight back to Nashville. And I knew that I had new Yamaha wave runners. I just knew that, all right, I'm going to get to have me not just a day or two. I get to have a lot of lake time. Jacqueline was about a year. Was she a year? She wasn't even a year old. Jocelyn was 4 or 5. I could put her around, but she didn't want to stay out there long. So Barney the dinosaur and what's the red dog, Clifford. So I'd get my episodes of Clifford and maybe little Barney, maybe little Gullah Island with the kids. And then I ate good and had a lot of lake time, and the summer of no worries kicked off.
Chris North is with us here live, and he wants to know, did TNA get a licensing deal for House? Whenever Hugh Laurie was watching the show on wrestling or watching wrestling on the show, it was always TNA. How did that come about?
Chris, you are an avid watcher, but yes, there was a, look, it was, I think that was, yes, there was a licensing deal and kind of paid, what kind of the going, I call it the going rate was, because it wasn't like they were promoting, in any unique special way, but they wanted that on. And, that was just kind of their deal. So yeah, there was a licensing deal. It wasn't a massive deal, but yes, there was one.
Why didn't you give me that money to Kid Cash, you nothing happening motherfucker?
Well, hey, cause he got his money in big fat payoffs. Just go ask him.
Just ask him.
Yeah. He hated those payoffs too.
He was allergic to them. He hated them so much. Here's a question from us. Anti-IWC on Twitter says, can a wrestling company be successful without cable television? With the evolution of consumption and streaming, can a wrestling company survive solely on a streaming platform? Double J, what say you?
GCW, I think, is surviving. They've got their Triller deal. I mean, everything's relative. Absolutely. On the independent level, on a national, international level.
All due respect to GCW, there's only a handful of guys there who probably make a full-time living wrestling.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I was trying to get, I'm with you in the relativity of what was the question? Can they survive?
Yeah. Solely on a streaming platform.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of, anti-IWC, make humanity, great. It's a good question, but all due respect, I don't think it's complete. If you're just on a streaming platform in 2024, transition 2025, no, I don't think you can, because I don't think the streaming platform will pay you enough. I think, I had a conversation, God, the days run together, but either it was last week or the week before with a super high level cable executive who now took a took an early retirement, but he's still in the game and going to do some other things. But we kind of talked about, network TV, cable TV, and streaming. And, I don't think there's any perfect recipe, but you can kind of look right now in today's, or what was it, last week's synopsis about the ad spending on cable advertising, even post-election, still pretty damn healthy. And so network, cable, and streaming, I think, are all going to level out on some level. But I mean,
let me ask you a question though. I mean, I heard you say, and by the way, I know a lot of people are going to say, yeah, but you tried to do it with pay-per-view. Yeah. And he pivoted because that wasn't working. So nobody's qualified to answer this more than Jeff, but I do want to double down on something because you said you don't think it can survive on its own because the streaming platform won't pay enough. Let me sprinkle a little something on it. Let's say it's a guy like John Cena, and I know he's not going to wrestle. He's going to finish up with WWE, and that's it for him in wrestling. I hear you. But let's say, hypothetically, he signs a big multi-picture deal with Amazon, and he's going to create a whole bunch of new Amazon movies for them that are going to be released on their streaming platform. And one of the things they'd like to have is John Cena presents Cena Championship Wrestling. I'm making some shit up, but he's going to be the brand ambassador. He's going to be the general manager. He's going to be an on-screen character running a wrestling show that exists in the confines of Amazon. You don't think that could work? It'd have to be a big star like that to has the star power to bring it in. But once upon a time, we saw Hulk Hogan's micro championship wrestling, and that's obviously a bad example, but I'm just saying. No.
So you got me thinking big time, because here's where, Connie, and this is probably not going to be, see, this is, I love this pod. I love when we kind of get into this because it's the what ifs and the pivoting and asking questions different way. And Conrad, I wish we lived in the same town. We could go to lunch together every week. Because the NFL just came out a couple of days ago. And if you would have told me that the Thursday night football NFL games on Amazon would be doing 13 million people,
yep,
I would have said, that Sunday afternoon slot with Tom Brady is magical. Yep, you can do your 15, 17 million people there, or 20 million. And your Sunday night with Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth and great matchups. Yeah, okay, that's going to do a big number. And your Monday night, well, hell, that's grandfathered in from generations. This Thursday night on streaming only, whoo, man, that's an uphill climb. And I know we're talking about the NFL.
Hang on, though. We're talking global, not national. So when you're talking about TV, you're talking about TV here in America. But when they're streaming, it's global.
Okay, so and my point being, still, an advertiser can reach 13 million freaking eyeballs. It's massive. It's massive. So as far as, that's what makes it all go around and around. Can you advertise and all that kind of stuff. So with your kind of repositioning it, that yes, with the right positioning, the right cadence, and yes, you learned on Jake Paul and Tyson that we covered, they didn't have, they created the right buzz. And how many did they have? Yes, it's a one-off, but you could, because of the wrestling's episodic nature. So yes, you can survive. And I think you can more than survive, thrive.
All we keep hearing is it's really affordable programming compared to what we normally see on television. So it does feel like to me, and I'm not suggesting this is going to happen. I have no inside knowledge. I don't even know the dude. I shook his hand a few times, but that's it. But John Cena is a global brand. He is a name that people recognize in countries where they don't speak English. So the idea that he had a platform where he could sign a deal with Apple or Amazon or one of the major streaming platforms. Hey, I really want to do movies and I'm going to contract with you to do a few of those. And yes, because you're doing that for me, I'll go do your wrestling show. He may begrudgingly go into it, but I do think that there would be enough initial interest in, oh, it's John Cena. I don't think the brand letters are going to make people tune in outside of WWE. I don't know that there's going to be a massive surge. Like, I think the numbers we're going to see for WWE on Netflix are about to dwarf anything we've ever seen or heard about from an American television audience. Because when we're talking about ratings right now, we're having a conversation about what just happens in the continental United States. When that show is global, it becomes a multiple immediately. And I think someone like John Cena, man, that could make it happen.
I got a screenshot from my buddy in London who we talk about everything: sports, American sports, streaming, celebrities. He keeps me up to date while we go back and forth, all that. He screenshotted me about WWE sunsetting. So they're on, it used to be called BT Sport, whatever it was, but about it coming, Raw and SmackDown coming to Netflix. And we jumped on a call and he talked about, I want to get this right. Oh yeah. Silva, go 2 shot, because I want to get Conrad's reaction. Do you know what this guy said? And I just went, he said, now that WWE is going mainstream on Netflix in the UK, now this guy's in the television business.
Yeah.
I went, that's his positioning.
Yeah.
Like TNT Sport, I know it's TNT Sport now. Think of that. That's a high tier, a smaller audience, niche. WWE gets paid a boatload of money. But now that they're going mainstream on a streaming service.
I mean, listen, there's been a discussion, and we never talk about politics on the show. We're not going to today. But I know that there was a lot of discussion in this last political cycle here in America.
Oh boy.
Where there was discussion about mainstream media. And I had a discussion with a pretty famous comedian, and he was saying, hey, the mainstream media now, that's not even, it should be called the national news, not mainstream media, because more people watch Joe Rogan and listen to Joe Rogan than watch the quote unquote mainstream media. And he's exactly right. I mean, you could cum a few of those to get to the Rogan numbers. So mainstream has changed in that we used to think that it had to be on TV for it to be mainstream. And that's what I've been saying about wrestling for a while. You don't have to have a TV deal. TV is not the end all be all, but streaming, just like we're doing now on YouTube, people can consume this globally. Now, of course, we don't have all the languages, that are possible to be translated for our show, but those companies can. So the answer is yes.
I'll throw this out in the stratosphere because of fill in the blank. AEW filling up Wembley Stadium, WrestleMania in Vegas. I mean, we could go down the laundry list. Tokyo Dome does their Dome show. We could go on and on and on, all the factors. Do you have to have a brand name like Cena? Can you have professional wrestling on Amazon? And I'm saying the right influencers and the right impact and the right fill it. You've got to
Yes, you have to have the right brand name. They could have had a boxing match on Netflix and no one would have given a shit. It would have been buried somewhere. You need the marquee buzz to make it appointment television. People have to have a reason to sign up and go seek it out. I'm friends with people who are pretty selective on the amount of streaming services they have. They just have a budget and they say, this is what I'm going to do. And so they would for that Tyson fight, they canceled Hulu or Amazon or whatever for the month and went with Netflix. And if this was not something that was a one-off, but it was recurring, could we sort of set the hook? Because you got to remember, most of the things that are streaming, now, of course, we're talking pre-sports because I realize now Amazon and Apple are in that game. But before that, it would be a streaming television show. So it would be produced like a TV show, whether it was 8 episodes or 10 episodes or 13. But when that's over, it's over. I can cancel the service. But if we could sort of set the hook right now for wrestling fans who tune in and like it, well, they're not going to, the show ended with a cliffhanger. I got to see what's going to happen next week. And if that happens 52 times in a year, I never cancel. I think wrestling has room for a third major player besides TNA. We'll call it a fourth one. And it could exist strictly in streaming, but you've got to have the right brand name associated with it. I don't know if that's Ric Flair. I don't know if that's Hulk Hogan. I don't know if that's John Cena. I don't know if it's Stone Cold Steve Austin, but somebody should back a truck up to one of those dudes and make some money. That's what I think.
I couldn't agree more.
And I know you and I agree about True Classic. You were telling the story last week that whenever Miss Karen goes to pack your bag, she loads you up on the TC. And she knows she can do that because now True Classics has your best-selling t-shirts, hoodies, jeans, and more in 3, 6, and even 9 packs. We're talking premium products at an affordable price. Shirts that define your best features with a perfect fit. We're talking snug in the arms and chest with just the right amount of room in the midsection. They've even got your fall and winter must-haves, your long-sleeve Henleys, your waffle hoodies, your jeans, your button-ups, your joggers, and more. They've even got the activewear you're really looking for. Moisture wicking, quick dry, and odor control. You can mix and match your clothing to work with your lifestyle. They have a 100% perfect fit guarantee. They've got easy returns. They've been trusted by more than 4 million customers, and now they've got over 200,000 reviews. The holidays are here, and True Classics ultra comfortable, perfect fitting essentials make for the perfect gift for you and the men in your life. So if you're ready to upgrade your closet, shop now and unlock big savings during their huge holiday sale. Just go to our exclusive link at trueclassic.com/myworld to save. That's trueclassic.com/myworld. Please support our show and tell them we sent you in the year with holiday cheer. Thanks to True Classic.
As the Queen says, I'm packing only your TCs.
Okay. I love it. Chris North is with us here, and he says, I've heard how Eric describes your new generation outfit. Whose idea were the short style trunks? I really only remember you and Scott Steiner and the Hollies wearing that style.
Actually, we've heard how Bischoff described your new generation.
I'm going to stop reading the questions and we'll just show them on screen from now on.
Well, shit, I want to make sure I answer it right.
Sure. No, I got it.
Don't get all pissed.
I'm not. We're just reading it twice for the listeners. I'll just be quiet and we'll put it on the screen. So there you go. Give us an answer on that.
Here we go. Oh, Two Finger T-Rex. Will you calm him down? Okay. You talking about the biker shorts? We're not the only one. That's what confused me. But I know Bischoff didn't like the new generation, but whose idea? They were mine. I didn't want to go, what would you call that? Wrestler style bathing suit cut. I like the biker shorts.
You didn't want your balls to fall out?
Well, creative services, as we kind of got together, because in those days you kind of had to approve everything and go through all of what's the look going to be and how are we transitioning and all that. And they drew up and I said, hey, I don't want to, because I had done all the different colors. I said, I want to stick with one color. And they go, man, can you have a little variation? I said, okay, silver, red, and black. And that's what we went with.
Did you ever have your cock and nuts fall out of one of your regular trunks before? Were you ever in the ring when that happened?
No free balling. Nope, never. Not a once, Connie.
I know there's a pretty famous instance where it happened with Nikita and Ric Flair at a Starrcade, and referee Tommy Young helped him tuck that rascal back in. And there's even a pretty funny story.
For real? At a Starrcade?
Yeah. Starrcade 86. Flair hits him with a suplex, and when he lands, I mean, there's the Russian sickle just flopped out plain as day, and Tommy Young came over and covered that thing up for him, and that was nice of him. But I've also heard about, I think it was Mick Foley who gave Al Snow a vertical suplex, but made sure that everybody saw the bird's nest with the sparrow's egg in it. And I just wondered, had you been in the ring when someone had a malfunction like that, where all their front business was out? I know Flair liked to show the rear business, but I'm talking about the party in the front. Have you been in the ring when someone
sparrow's nest with the bird?
The bird. It was a bird's nest with a sparrow's egg right in the middle. That's the way it was described in Foley's book. I didn't make that up. I'm borrowing from Mr. Foley there.
No, you did not.
Yeah.
No,
I freestyled Russian sickle. That one's on me, but so you've never been, out in a wrestling match when somebody's hog came out.
You know what? I can pretty much safely say I've never seen the Russian sickle actually inside the squared circle.
Well, if you go watch Starrcade 86, yeah. I don't know if it's on the network, but it used to be.
Tommy Young, that whole cover job has probably been edited out.
Well, it should have been. I mean, it was on the VHS from what I understand.
My goodness.
Yeah. It's the real
ever
deal.
Done I wonder if there's ever been an interview maybe insiders. Maybe that's, I don't know.
I asked Nikita about it once, and I said, "Does your hog really fall out at Starrcade '86?" And he looked right at me and said, "Chatoata." Not really.
Okay.
Coach Rosie has a question for you. And
hold on, Coach Rosie. Crockett the book. Did you ever ask our friend Mr. David Crockett? Is that in the book?
we're about to get to November of 1986, and we will damn sure be talking about Nikita's Russian sickle. There's no chance let him get out of there without talking about that.
That's all I needed to hear. We can move on.
Coach Rosie's got a question for you.
Episode of Rustler's Court. Sorry to cut you off again.
Go ahead. So we'll throw that one up there for him.
That will be a Rustler's Court episode.
Mm-hmm.
Will you defend, or will you be like a prosecutor in that episode?
We still got to figure all that out. We'll figure that out in the coming weeks on something to wrestle with
Two Finger T-Rex. I heard Johnny Cash had a place on the lake in Hendersonville. Did you ever meet Johnny? Well, old Johnny, and I know his son, John Jr., but yes, he placed not far from here. Man, there's all kind of fascinating stories about the place. Oh boy. It's a fascinating, it got restored by one of the Bee Gees, bought it, and he fully restored it. They got it done. The inside of the house had the clear lacquer, and the paint people were doing the last jobs on it. One little bitty spark, the whole place burnt down, and it was being fully restored. So Johnny lived right around the corner, Coach. He is buried just, 15, 20 feet from my first wife. Him and June, they kind of passed away very close in time, Johnny and June. But yes, me and John Jr. went to the same high school, and he still lives here in Hendersonville.
Francis Reyes has a question about Jeremy Borash.
Was there any, because the Conrad, Two Finger T-Rex, he's pissed at me. Was there any championship title ideas that was pitched to you and said no? Francis, you kind of leave unemptied. Was there any championship title ideas? I'm sure there was a boatload that I said no to from Vince Russo.
No, I mean, we're talking like you were the death match, Chainsaw Texas Massacre, Fuck Your Mama Jones champ. Was there ever a silly belt idea like that you remember turning down?
I honestly, in creative rooms and people, you could just only imagine. There are so many times that the encouragement really is, there's not a bad idea. Well, there really is. But hey, get everything out, get on the table, because you may hear one little seed of a conversation that takes you down another road. That is a fun part of the industry. And that can be with a match. It can be with a creative idea. It can be with a promo, is kind of get engagement from other folks to really flesh out. That's the creative process. I will say this, that if you get and I used to, oh God, I feel like a old timer because I'm getting into the story, but I used to, kind of be anal about this. If I'm going to have a creative process, I didn't want an even number in the room. I wanted an odd, because at any given moment, you just go, okay, man, let's take a vote on this. Like we've got to decide as a group. We'll just say this guy winning or losing. And I know there's a debate on each side, and let's have an odd number in there. And at that point, we need to move on, because the whole kind of direction of the program can go from this way on a certain thing. So the collaboration process is something that can be very fun, but man, it can get frustrating, and it can get tense when people feel very strongly one way or another. But Francis, your question, I'm sure there are plenty of ideas that were either laughed at or thrown out of the room, but it's all part of the process.
Nick Lenz has a great question for you.
Oh, I did. Yes.
You have to say the question, Jeff.
I was just kidding with you, Conrad. I just said yes to the question. No,
all right, let's move on. We got one from Richard.
Did I ever meet Nick Gulas? I certainly did. Nick was the promoter here that had promised my dad part ownership in the territory. He thought he had 10%. My dad went to, hey, man, let's settle up on my profits for the year. And Nick said, boy, you don't own anything. And my old man went, well, Nick, that may be true. And then a little short time went along and he started his own, he branched off and left Nick. So
I got the NWA support in the process.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool when you can step out as a outlaw promotion, if you will, and you get the NWA support. That's a big deal.
It was huge.
Yeah.
But I guess, and look, before my time, but Lawler was red hot. They knew my father had been booking the territory for several years, the talent, the whole kind of deal structure and all that. But at the end of the day, if Nick would have had just a little bit of goodwill with that era of promoters, it would have never happened. Nick, I mean, you can hear in Meltzer and others, but I'll give it to Dave because on the territories, there is some penmanship that Dave will put. Nick, people despised him. And I always had good relationships. And to this day, his son, George, referees girls basketball, and my daughters all played in games where he refereed. And I see George at independent wrestling shows and all that. So we have a great relationship. But back in the day, I don't think Nick was viewed upon as fondly in his last few years. I'll say that.
Rich R has a question for you about the early days of TNA here.
During the early days of TNA, Bobby Roode filmed a series of limo interviews with legendary managers like Sherry Martel and Bobby Heenan while searching for a new manager. Do you have any behind-the-scenes stories about filming those segments? Was Sherry or Heenan ever seriously considered for a TNA contract? I'll answer that. No, they weren't, but we were very appreciative for their cameos, if you will, and it was all about Bobby. I have always been, since the day I saw his very first promo in Nashville at the Asylum, I looked back over my shoulder and I asked Scott D'Amore, WWE did what? He's not signed to them? And nope, he did a tryout and they just kind of are kind of giving him the runaround. I said, well, let's sign him. And he did the Team Canada thing. And this was during when Jill was sick, just coming out of that. But we were going to make Bobby a singles guy. And I just said, hey, man, the best thing to do is kind of duplicate. I'm trying to think. In wrestling, this has done multiple times in multiple ways. But, who was going to manage Randy Savage? Conrad, would that be the most famous one?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe. Anyway, so it had been, we wanted to tee up Bobby the best we could. And that's how we kind of laid it out, that people were vying for his services. And again, a good way to get cameos with big time brand names.
Matthew Green has a question for us. This one is a good one, and it's about set designs, if you will, the way the rings look.
I'll listen better because I do better. You ask this, Conrad, please.
A question I hope to get answers by both Hey, it's Conrad and at Real Jeff Jarrett. All-time favorite ring design, ropes, apron, turnbuckles. That's easy for me. It's the golden era of the WWF. I'll say, 1988, 89, 90, 91 WWF. That was what I grew up on. So that's what I tend to favor. I also like the Nitro set maybe as a number 2, but yeah, I think golden era WWF. That's it for me.
Would that be what color ropes?
Red, white, and blue. Blue turnbuckles, yellow WWF logo, just blue ring skirts, light gray canvas, blue mats around the ring. Just less is more. Classic WWF. I love that look.
Yeah. Okay.
What was your favorite?
It wasn't my favorite, but I'll say this. I saw a clip not long ago. Ric Flair last match.
Looked pretty decent.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you.
I got a lot of shit about those white ropes, as you remember.
Buddy, but I'm telling you, the turnbuckle pads, the logo, the vibe for a one-off show.
It looked pretty professional for somebody who didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
Come on, the purple. Just think about, maybe you didn't realize the ballsiness it took. I'm going to put purple. I still got some of that confetti over there. Anyway, mine is the 6-sided red ropes. I guess you would call it gray canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Last week on that podcast, the 6 sides of steel.
It looks cool.
I thought it was a clean look, and the simple TNA initials on the top, middle, and bottom, the TNA, and all that, just black turnbuckles with the well, I call it the original. There was just a little bit of red in the logo. I'm not even sure if that was on the turnbuckle, but just like I think you just said, clean and simple. That was what I thought our original look was.
Ty Doesn't Lie. Claude's got a question for you. He wants to know any stories about your time working a heel Eddie Gilbert. What was his approach going into the match?
Eddie was fantastic. You see it from time to time on X, a match he had with Tiger Mask, and kind of the fast-paced. I guess it would have been called the junior heavyweight or light heavyweight during that time. But Eddie was a hell of a worker. But in Tennessee, he was looked at as I'll call it a heavyweight. And so me being around him, and I know that he, went to different territories and he was a mouthpiece and different things, and maybe a tag situation. But as we'll call him a single heel in Tennessee, man, when I just kind of look back on those first 7 years of my career and think about Akio Sato, and that was 18 weeks, night in and out, learning the basics of that, and maybe teaming with Billy Travis, and I could kind of go through all that. But I had those matches in that program with Eddie and that time frame. But Eddie and we would go out. We're working spot shows, and we did it. I don't know how many times. We did 30 minutes through, and Eddie was either booking the territory. Or, he was. We'll call him the assistant booker under Lawler. Lawler really had the book, but Eddie was doing at times 95% of it or 50% of it. But Eddie in the spot shows, look, you got to go into the days thinking that these were 5-match spot show cards, 2 matches intermission, 2 matches, another intermission. Got to say your Cokes and popcorn. But, my grandfather, or whoever the promoter was, there was, basically, hey man, a hard out. We want to be out of here in 2 hours and a half, 2:45. At the very, very most, a 2-hour show was good, but 2.5 hours was really pushing the limit. So Eddie would time the show, and many a night, until the different promoters understood we were only going to go 30, but that we were going to go 30. They were like, hey man, we're too early. And Eddie would go out, and man, he taught me so much pacing, about, I guess, the roller coaster of a match. He was really, really good, man. Gone way too soon. I think about a mid 40-year-old Eddie Gilbert, early 50s, kind of where he would have fallen in the Booker category. Yeah.
Can you imagine what he'd be doing with TNA or AEW or WWE now? I mean, it'd be crazy. He'd had a run in Mexico too. Like,
yes. He was his dad wrestled. I still see Doug from time to time. He's a wrestling family, but Eddie, it was his passion. It really was.
Well, my passion is telling people how hard they can get their ding dong with our friends at BlueChew.com. BlueChew is an online service that delivers you the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part is it's all online, which means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Take them anytime, day or night. So plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. Blue Chew's the real deal, and they want men to be rock hard. That's what they told me. That's their mission. They're not going to stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house, until every tent is pitched, until every rod is raised. Discover your options at BlueChew.com. And boy, do we have a special deal for our audience. Try Blue Chew free when you use our special promo code. Come on now. You're going to love it. Right now, visit BlueChew.com. You'll receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring My World with Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, we got a few more questions here, and then we'll put a button on this one. Legends and Champions podcast says, with WWE moving to Netflix in the new year, closing off the WWE Network, what does he think will happen with all the retro content? Should it move over to Netflix? Will it be lost? Does he think it's still relevant? And how will talent feel not receiving a royalty check? Let's start with that last question first. You know, we hear all the time about these other folks in Hollywood, Jeff. Even our buddy Paul Walterhausen last week, just a couple of days before Thanksgiving, he tweeted out that he had recorded something for Reno 911 4 years ago and got a Fat Daddy residual check right before Thanksgiving, just in time for the holidays. WWE doesn't really pay royalties like that, as far as I know. Do you think that will change over time? I mean, how do you feel as someone who provided a lot of that content and now there's no royalties? And we know that on the streaming services, there are no royalties, but when a television show gets syndicated, they make millions of dollars, like Seinfeld. And I heard Jennifer Aniston made over $10 million last year just on Friends residuals alone. That doesn't exist for wrestling. Do you think there's a universe where it could, or is wrestling considered like, hey, I watched it one time and now it's out of here?
Well, I think more than anything, and wrestling is always that kind of unique hybrid. Obviously, and I've said it so many times, we're not true sport. And, I'll say not true entertainment, but yeah, we're full blown entertainment, but we are in the business of trying to simulate sport. So anyway, it's a hybrid. I think the big issue is here when Jennifer Aniston signed her contract, or any other person in Hollywood, the unions, that goes back to, day one, the paper you sign has built-in residuals, and all of that is at least tabled and generally agreed to, that you're going to monetize this in perpetuity. That doesn't happen in wrestling. When you sign the dotted line, you are giving full and rights in perpetuity to any and all content that is created. It's a completely different set of circumstances from a legal aspect. And yes, a 86, that Tommy Young Russian sickle move, the value of it is obviously debatable, but it's just not like watching another episode of Big Bang or Friends or anything like that. Just kind of a different. It's just a different playing field completely. It's like Tom Brady won 6 championships. There's not a high demand for watching his 6th Super Bowl, but he got paid handsomely already.
Yeah, he did. We got a real-time question here that just came in from Flick Orr over on Twitter, and he wants to know, what would have been your dream job outside of the ring? So if you didn't pursue wrestling, I know you got licensed to be a general contractor once upon a time, you got that license. Do you think you would have went into real estate development or something like that? Or is there something else in an alternate universe where you said, that would have been fun? I know you're a sports junkie because you have seen yourself working at a university or a sports franchise behind the scenes or something like that.
So as time has gone on, I've had a kind of a yin and yang of that. I would have thought coaching, just really digging in. And I'm saying the whole soup to nuts, the recruiting part of it, the off-seasoning, conditioning, 12 months out of the year, that whole process. But man, oh man, when I kind of look at the landscape, that profession, it's full of heartbreak, man. It is. That is a tough profession because, I guess my personality is, but no, I love that. I love like the process that we used to do to create shows. The ones, well, we talked about last week, putting together a show that ends up with a 3 or 4 month build and a payoff and the talent. takes it to a whole nother level, and you see the team rowing in all directions, and everybody's rowing from marketing to production to talent. Just all the aspects come together, the teamwork, the collaboration. I got to say that something in the sports world, from executive management to, that's what I'm saying, maybe not coaching, I don't know, but something in sports management.
Here's one. Don Stevens wants to know, would Jeff consider becoming a full-time commentator for Dynamite or Collision or another show? I think he would be awesome at it. Jeff, 20, 30, 40 years from now, when you finally hang up the boots and you're done with your in-ring career, do you think you would consider being a talking head in wrestling? Could you see yourself doing color like a Jesse Ventura?
So prior to Spokane, Washington, and our friend and your friend, when Tony Schiavone came to me in catering, and he kind of, now that I look back on it, I joke with him, but now that I look back on it, sat down and he kind of did some, I don't say some warm-up conversation. And then he said, hey, you're going to do Dynamite tonight. I'm like, do what? He's like, you're going to be the third man. I said, no. He said, really? I said, well, you ribbon. What's going on? He said, nope. The man has requested you do it, and they want to know if you're up for it. I'm like, well, what do you think, Tony? Tony said, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. I'm like, oh. Anyway, Conrad, prior to that, I would have said no. And I've said it on this podcast many a time. I've had the conversation, I don't know how many times, with Mike TNA through the years, when we would be going through show notes and prep and saying, hey, here's where we're going to go here and here, but you make it your own and all this. I used to have those conversations with Lawler about how damn good he was. With Schiavone, JR, it is a freaking art to do that. But yeah, I would, when the time, if it ever, that would be a bonus to the career. But I prior to Spokane and me doing that one episode of Dynamite and Rampage, I'd have said zero chance, but you never know. I'll just sit back and have fun with it. I love being the part of the 0 hour panel.
Last question from the agent. He wants to know, as a person who's done everything in the business, what tips and advice would you have for an independent promoter in the business now to draw more people to shows? How about that? Sitting under the learning tree from Double J. What is a tip you would give an independent promoter to draw more people to shows in 2024?
Well, so he said, we got to put butts in seats. What I was going to say, the first thing to do is write down a budget. Don't think about it. Don't talk about it. Don't have an idea about it. But I'm talking about get the old, well, no, folks don't do this now, but they get the iPads and phones and all that. But I've always said, get out the old yellow pad and go through it so you can add and subtract, but you can do that on anything. But really have a written budget and know exactly kind of your vision of where you're going. Have your roadmap. But once you have that, you're going to know how many butts you need to put in seed. But I'll say this, the simplest things that I say as an independent promoter is that you're probably going to have, I'd say nowadays, minimum of 20 talent on your show. They are your promoters, and they have access to social media 24/7, 365. So you and your talent get on the same page and have the same messaging and give them marketing data, whether it's a graphic, whether it's a commercial. You have to invest in promotable assets. And if you say, yeah, I tweeted out 2 days before, that don't matter. I'm talking about you got to hammer it impressions. Conrad, you've sold mortgages for a long time.
Yep.
How important, that's maybe a shoot-ass question, the impressions for people to know, oh, Save with Conrad. How important is impressions to you?
Very important. I mean, the deal is you're trying to get what we call top of mind awareness. So when they think of that product or service, they think of you first. And everybody knows I love AEW and you do too, but WWE is top of mind awareness when it comes to professional wrestling. They've achieved that, and it took forever for them to get there, but they've achieved that. And I think the same is true for a lot of other brands, Kleenex, Coca-Cola, Band-Aid. but those people did a whole lot of branding before you thought of them first. And there is a difference between branding and like a call to action advertising spot. Like if I'm doing a regular advertising spot, I'm trying to get a return on investment. With branding, I'm just trying to make sure you don't forget about me and I'm staying in front of you. And there's different studies that have been done that say that, hey, you need to make 7 impressions, or you need to make 10 impressions, or you need to make 20 impressions. There's all these different schools of thought and theories. I just know that impressions do matter, and staying in front of somebody does matter. And if they don't hear from you, they'll forget about you. I mean, that whole thing, out of sight, out of mind, is real. That's not a cliche. That's real life. And we hope that we've been in front of you today, and we hope you'll join us next week. We've got a big show planned for you. We've been cruising down memory lane, talking about 2004 and all the great stuff that's been happening in 2004. But we're at a bit of a crossroads, Jeff, and I want to know from your perspective, what would you like to see next? We do have a few different options that we could go with. We could talk about you returning to TNA in 2009. We could talk about Abyss. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we could cover. Do you have a preference for what we talk about next on My World?
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, man. You know what, Conrad, the other day, was I talking? Anyway, have we, me and you, and look, I love the Abyss idea. I love returning, but the original StarCast that weekend, that original show, Nick Aldis, that's one. The Nick, and we'll cover, we would cover the Nick Aldis Cody Rhodes match at the Nashville Fairgrounds. Have we talked about, what was that? I'm drawing. Is that all out? No, all in.
That was all in 2018.
The original all in.
I like the idea of us talking about that too. I wonder if that should be an ad-free shows exclusive. Jeff and I are going to decide, are we going to talk about Abyss? Or are we going to talk about Dusty Rhodes? Cause we've left both of those with a lot more to come.
We didn't even get close to, well, that's what I'm saying. Either one of them. We could have got so much more on both of them.
We need to get back to those. So let's just go ahead and announce it now as we're cruising through December, because, well, this is our first episode of December, but we got several more to come. We're going to be talking about Jeff returning to TNA in 2009. We're going to talk about Dusty Rhodes again and finish that story. We're going to talk about Abyss again. And then we might even go way back and talk about 1987, because we started talking about 87 and we said, hey, we'll pick it up. We've got a lot of unfinished business, and I think we should tie up some loose ends here to close the year out. What say you?
So 87, we talked about, The other night, Connie, we watched on ad-free. We watched an episode from 87. You know who was driving the ship? Our man Pondwater.
How was it?
Buddy, I'll just say this. When he rolled the clip of Jeff Jarrett, the poster, we both chuckled, and then Pondwater let me know what he looked like in 1987. Stonewashed jeans, went into the snakeskin boots. He had the rattlesnake. He said something about his mustache. He had the perm hair. Oh, buddy.
I wish he'd have left some for us, you know. He was getting it all.
We got to talk it. No, that was that time frame in my career. It was fun, man. We Marty and Sean came out on TV, and Scott Hall no-show TV, and Billy Travis. And, oh God, it was. Enjoy
that episode right now at adfreeshows.com. And don't forget, it's not too late. You can still join us just in time for Top Guy weekend. We're doing it in Huntsville. It's fantasy camp. It's going to be a who's who of professional wrestling who were there, and who's who is up to you. That's right. You're going to get to be the booker. You're going to get to perform on the show, all that and more. All the details are available now at adfreeshows.com. Jeff, I'm glad to hear you guys had a Thanksgiving. I'm glad you managed to salvage Thanksgiving with the beef, because I know the turkey was just burnt to a crisp. It was ugly. It was sad.
The classic today, because my meal was a classic, just like Continental Classic matches are classic.
There you go. Well, that's what you can expect from True Classic and the Continental Classic. I don't know what the hell we're doing, but we're doing it again next week. Right here at myworldpod.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson here to tell you a little more about what adfreeshows.com is all about. Get early, ad-free access to more than a dozen of your favorite wrestling podcasts every single week, starting at just $9. That's less than 20 cents an episode each month. And yes, you can listen to them all directly through Apple Podcasts or your regular podcast apps. How easy is that? Ad-free shows also has thousands of hours worth of bonus content and docuseries like Title Chase, Eric Fires Back, Conversations with Conrad, and The Insiders. Plus new series like The Book with David Crockett, Monday Mailbags with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, and a whole lot more. And you want to talk about early? You can't get any earlier than listening to the shows live. You can be a part of the live studio audience as we record the podcast. Plus, ride shotgun alongside your favorite childhood heroes for live watch-alongs, Q&As, and other interactive experiences every single month. Come on now, see for yourself what thousands of other wrestling fans from around the world have discovered, that adfreeshows.com is the best value in wrestling. Check it out today, and hey, when you do, the first week is completely free. adfreeshows.com.